Do you actually have to be on cocaine to be on this podcast?
It's a great day to be a Wildcat.
Cocaine.
Dirtbag.
What's up, everybody? You're listening to yet another edition of Cocaine Willie. I am your commissioner, Bob Trollsby, and as always, but again, not always, I'm joined by my co-host, the good chef, Andre Napier. And once again this week, we are without our famed and esteemed Fireball Matt Marchesini. So we're joined once again by guest co-host, Joe Tillery of Heartland College Sports and YouTube fame. Joe, once again, it is great to have you back on as a now recurring guest.
Hey, 2 times. I mean, that's back-to-back right there. That's a great thing to be. I am so pumped to be here with you guys. You guys have been absolutely killing it on the content, man. It's good to be a part of the Cocaine Willie pod for today. I'm excited.
We are stoked to have you. It was awesome doing the Bosco's Boys Around the Horn episode with you. For those of you who haven't listened to that, I would definitely shamelessly plug that. That was a blast. But let's just kick it off. K-State's coming off of a really great victory where there were many times during that game where I was texting our group chat. I was tweeting out some things where I was saying, I was not super stoked on where things were at going into halftime, knowing that Texas Tech was going to have the ball back after halftime as well. But what did the K-State defense do? The K-State defense held them to a touchdown in the second half. The K-State offense ended up putting up a 38-21 effort against Texas Tech, where we saw, defensively, I think we saw a great performance in that we had 3 interceptions, 2 of which came from Kobe Savage, 1 from VJ Payne, 1 almost interception from Marquis Siegel. I think another almost interception from Kobe Savage. I think he almost had 3. So a great effort, I think, in the second half, definitely across the board. And I would be remiss not to mention Avery Johnson, the golden boy, sunshine in the flesh, came in and dazzled with a 5-touchdown rushing effort on the day against Texas Tech. So I think all of that to tee up just a little bit of discussion. What were your thoughts on that game coming out of it, and how are we feeling now that we're at that midway point of the season?
It's good. You got it. We said we had to have this win, and we did it. We didn't care how it happened. We weren't, I wasn't too picky on it. I just needed a dub. And it was a convincing win, to be honest. I mean, a 17-point win on the road in a hostile environment where it was, just set up just the exact same way with Stillwater, where we beat the pulp out of Texas Tech for, 12 out of the last 13 years? It's 8 straight. We needed the win. We were in desperation mode, and we got it done. Defensively, like you said, second half, they made the adjustments. VJ Payne talked about it. Kobe Savage talked about it. They got some looks, and then when their backup quarterback came in, the floodgates opened. We went ultra aggressive, and we made it happen. And then we'll get into, the second coming of, he has risen. So we'll get into him, but I'm happy with the performance. I'd give it a solid A-.
Yeah, I'll definitely echo that. I mean, dude, I was stoked to see what happened. I know that vibes should not usually be riding high when you're walking in the locker room. Hey, it's a 1-score game, especially this season. I mean, it's a different narrative this year versus last year. But dude, I felt great. I got to tell you, watching this game, I mean, obviously you see the immediate explosion of Avery Johnson, and you kind of say, well, is this a reoccurring thing? Is this a 1-drive, 2-drive, 3-drive thing? And then K-State's like, all right, hey, there was Avery Johnson for that week. Let's go back to Will. What happens here? Dude, it was exciting to see. And I can't get over the fact, like you said it, Chef, the voodoo magic that we have in Lubbock or in Manhattan, anytime Texas Tech is on the football field with Kansas State, 12 out of 13 wins, that is nearly impossible to do for anybody, let alone all the different quarterback play, all the different running backs, all the different receivers. There is such a different environment about this team over the last 13 years that you see consistently getting that win. That was a big one. And selfishly, I've got a cousin at Texas Tech, so I got to give her a hard time for, she got to college 2 years ago. So for now, the second straight year, a couple of times there with basketball and football. It was a great day to be a Wildcat, and I was pumped to see the outcome of the game.
It was a great day to be a Wildcat. I will definitely echo that. I do want to bring this up as well. So when we mentioned the defense, obviously the first half wasn't quite what I think probably expected. It was a very close matchup. I was definitely super, super concerned just knowing how the middle 8 in these games has gone for K-State specifically. And I think about the Oklahoma State game. I think that UCF game is maybe the only example where I think K-State did some really good stuff in that middle 8. But I would be remiss not to mention the defensive injuries that we've seen. And we essentially have no linebackers right now. What are you thinking about that linebacker position when you look at the lack of depth there, knowing how many guys are injured towards the top of the depth chart at that position? And how do you think that will impact the rest of the season as the season goes along in the second half here?
Well, not having Daniel Green out, I think that's pretty much, and Asa Newsome, those were the real significant ones. Austin Romaine, somehow it sneaked through that he broke his wrist last week. I don't know where that information came from, but he comes out with a cast. He's banged up. Austin Moore, he's been pretty much healthy all year, knock on wood. Desmond Purnell played great. When you're not calling his name a lot in a negative way, that means he's, just doing his job, fitting his run gaps. But Jake Clifton, he's healthy finally, but he's laying the wood to people and getting booted out of games.
He got ejected for the second half of
Man.
He got luckily with 54 seconds off, it was like a buzzer beater that he doesn't have to miss the next first half versus TCU. Luckily he's coming back, so I'm not overly concerned. Bo Palmer did some things, he was there. He's a warm body. It's not great depth. And, one injury away from being basically at 3 linebackers. So it's not great, but I don't think we came out of it too crazy beat up. But it is crazy how it went from being, one of the most deep and probably impactful position groups we had on defense to, that John Travolta meme where he's looking around like, where's everybody at? Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
The Fresh Prince walking into the house.
Oh, that one too. I love that.
Yeah, man. I mean, you said it. You think about it. This was one of the best units in the Big 12 coming into the season. You have a guy like Daniel Green, Austin Moore still there, but you lose a guy like Daniel Green. And I think for me, you lose his leadership aspect a little bit with him not on the field, but he immediately picks that up by being in meetings, being in defensive meetings, linebacker breakout rooms, special teams meetings. I mean, you saw it late if you watch the full replay. Kobe Savage, that first pick he has, after, coming up with the pick, running the sideline, the first dude he goes up there and meets with is Daniel Green with his arm in the sling, the body kind of locked in that way. Even though it's, pec injury, I don't know what the exact ins and outs are. I'm not a doctor that way. But the first guy he celebrates with is Daniel Green. That is an incredible feat. The Austin Moore thing you bring, or excuse me, not Austin Moore, the Austin Romaine thing you bring up, how did nobody know the guy broke his wrist until the third period when they're like, yeah, Austin Moore playing with a broken wrist, or Austin Romaine playing with a broken wrist.
Dude, this was what I texted on our group chat. And Joe, you're not on that group chat, but
yeah,
I said this is like some Bill Snyder injury disclosure level shit.
Snyder
was notorious for not disclosing any injuries at all whatsoever.
I mean, this is a straight quarterback injury where you have the 4th string guy stepping in because we have no idea what happened during the week. And then sure enough, you see Austin Romaine out there with the full club. He's a dog for playing through that. I think that's a different situation where if you have, an Asa Newsome, if he was healthy, if you have Daniel Green healthy, that injury immediately reported, hey, we're going to miss some minutes from this guy, XYZ, we're moving on to the next guy. But that wasn't the case because you only have Jake Clifton, who obviously we saw with the targeting call. You have a real need for a true freshman linebacker. Hey, not only will you step up, we need you to play the whole game. We need you out there, 35, 40, 50 snaps a game. We need you out on the field for that. And that's a former guy who could have been a special teamer. So it's concerning, but I would say, barring something crazy, and I want to put this out there, knocking on wood, I think we should be okay with just the toughness and the resolve that those guys show. And you mentioned it to kind of jump off the topic here in a sec. You have a guy like Jake Clifton, who has played every single linebacker position. Same thing, similar-ish with Des Purnell, who has experience lining up in different spots. So in the need that you're in a pinch or something like that, you can jump a guy to somewhere else. But it is a concern. I mean, it's not my number one concern, but it is something to monitor for sure.
I'm curious. So for the two of you, this was the best game for the secondary since when? Oklahoma State last year, Missouri last year.
Well, Oklahoma State last year. I mean, that was, Julius. Did Julius come down with a pick? I think, he came down with a pick.
Interceptions last year against Oklahoma State, but we got a fumble recovery as well.
Yeah, and they locked, and that was a shutout. They locked them down. So I would probably have to say Oklahoma State. That was an elite game,
And then that was a good game last year with 4 interceptions thrown?
Yeah. 2 different quarterbacks, 4 picks. I mean, heck, that's one thing.
That's probably number one. But since the last one, Oklahoma State, maybe. To be honest, other than the TCU Big 12 championship game, that was Julius clutching up in the end zone with a pick.
Mm-hmm.
And Keenan Garber going out there with like 2 practices under his belt at corner. I mean, I loved that. Was probably one of my most fun games I remember for the secondary. Yeah, one of those. But the defensive performance that we saw from Kobe Savage, even with the fair catch drop that he had for an interception, he makes it up on later in that drive at the pick in the end zone. Kobe Savage played great. VJ Payne, one-handed interception, played great.
Hell of a grab.
It was and Parrish coming off of an injury, which was undisclosed. We don't really necessarily know what it was, but he played solid. He had a lot of pass breakups, and they were going after him. They were legitimately going after him a lot, and he held his own. He did what he had to do. And the other side of without Will Lee, hopefully he comes back pretty soon, but they played a great game. They were great in the run fits. Because they had to swarm tackle Taj Brooks. They had to do it, and they did. And even with when they brought in that backup quarterback, like VJ Payne said in his post game, they made the adjustments that were necessary, and they were way more aggressive, and it showed.
I mean, also, you mentioned it, talking about that TCU game, there's kind of, to selfishly plug a little bit here on my YouTube channel. Sorry to be that guy for a minute, but that is in the comment section where the comment is, hey, this defense gives up a ton of yards. That's not really a new thing for Kansas State. We give up a chunk of yards, and then crunch time. It's crunch time inside of the red zone, even close to the red zone. When you think about that Big 12 championship game, I mean, there was multiple turnovers. Julius did get beat a couple of times early in that game, but you see the end zone pick. Hey, K-State's going the other way. You see the play, which I know we won the Big 12 title, so I probably shouldn't be selfish about it now, but I am still kind of weirdly hurt about the no call on the safety in the end zone or near the end zone there with Austin Moore, Max Duggan. I know it wasn't the case, and that's not secondary specific, but still selfishly, I'm a little bit hurt about that one. That hasn't been talked about more through this point, but I think the secondary is figuring itself out. And one thing I want to give a shout out to my boy Eric, special teams, you actually repping the merch, Mr. Chef, killing it there. Shout out to our boy,
baby, man. This is a fire shirt, dude.
I mean, what a guy! What a guy. Mentioned, hey, talking about some of the stuff that happened on the field. I lost my entire train of thought here. Let me rethink this for a minute. I got caught up in the beauty of that shirt. 100%, I did. Oh no, I'm back on it now. Talking about the idea to switch VJ Payne and Kobe Savage from outside, kind of sideline to sideline. We talked about it a little bit on my channel. Him jumping to that jack safety position and playing in the middle of the field. It's no fluke that you see not only 2 picks from Kobe, but a third opportunity. You see him ball hawking sideline to sideline. It's one of those things where, like, VJ Payne, I mean, we all saw the pictures of the dude with like a 28 pack in the offseason.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is
hell of an athlete.
Oh yeah, that guy's an athlete. And then, a one-handed catch where, I don't know if you guys caught it, but there was an interview for Go Power Cat after the game where Kobe buries VJ Payne and goes, that guy can't catch.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a catch for a guy who can't catch. I'll tell you that. I think it's interesting to see what happens in the secondary going forward. I almost feel like the coincidence that, hey, K-State's starting to make some plays, even though they're giving up, 450 yards of total offense to opposing teams, that's going to start to shrink. You're going to see some of that consistent secondary play. And you mentioned, sorry to keep jabbering on about the secondary here, but it's something I'm very passionate about here. Jacob Parrish deserves so much praise for his game.
Yep.
Because And I don't know if it'll represent this way, closer to his senior year, to his junior year, whatever the case will be, but he's not the flashy player that's going to be, all right, you're on an island with Jacob Parrish. You have to make plays. You have to go out there and get a pick here, get a stop here, get a break up here. Jacob Parrish is one of the guys that eliminates the side of the field, but you don't see that reflect in the stat sheet. And that's kind of what you see against Texas Tech. Obviously, there's the one call there in the end zone where there's a lot of back and forth on whether it's an OPI, whatever the case is. There's a lot of hand fighting, yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to go into that, but I think he's a guy that deserves a lot of love for what he's doing. And then getting Will Lee back, I mean, that's going to be big. He's not on the depth chart this week, but we'll see where that goes from here.
It's
I'll tell you,
of Echo.
Yeah, Echo Boydo.
Yeah,
you're
definitely.
reading my mind. That is very Echo Boydo-esque, where I don't think Echo ever ended up with a pick in his K-State career, unfortunately, but he was probably one of the best corners that we've seen in a really long time. And Jacob Parrish is very similar, where he doesn't necessarily really always go for the interception, but he gets that hand in there, and he gets a lot of swats, a lot of PBUs, and I love to see that because he's fundamentally sound, because he is a smaller corner, and he just gets in and he brings it in run support. He likes to play that edge. I like that a lot. And a guy that I would feel really bad, because I know we've been yammering on about the secondary, but Marcus Siegel's transformation, he was a liability in that Missouri game. And after that, I think he really made a switch, because in that Oklahoma State game, he got picked on one time. It was a bad defensive penalty on him, but he's been excellent in run support. He almost had a pick six in this game, and I think he's taken it on himself to play better, because he knows that he is a way better player. And once he's kind of turned it on, like you guys were saying, the DBs have been a lot better, a lot better. And I think it's a lot to do with Siegel. He's been playing out of his mind, kind of.
Siegel kind of got dragged there for a long time. I mean, that is no secret. I'm glad you're giving him some love, because and maybe it's just it's just a characteristic, it feels like, at this point, of a Chris Kleiman led team. You see a guy like Josh Hayes. I mean, Josh Hayes was a hell of a player last season. It's reflected. You go to the NFL draft, you get drafted by the Bucs in your hometown. Awesome story. But that's a guy that was here for 1 year, and the impact he has, sideline to sideline, you see him on the end arounds, you see him on the receiver screens, running back screens, whatever the case is. He was a hell of a player. Siegel's kind of that next guy up. I mean, Kobe obviously is the main guy in that secondary that you say, okay, this guy has NFL caliber talent. But you see Siegel making plays, and I think that it's a good thing to bring him up, because he definitely deserves some flowers in the secondary conversation.
And I think what's important about the secondary turning the corner where they are is we're heading into the meat of the Big 12 schedule, where this is going to be a lot more important now as we try to attempt to repeat as Big 12 champions, or at least making that Big 12 title game. So it's incredibly important that the secondary is starting to kind of fire on all cylinders when we've got matchups against teams like TCU, Texas, Kansas, even coming up in the schedule here. So I'm excited about where that secondary position group is headed. Let's talk about another position group that I feel like has had a bit of a rocky start to the beginning of the season, but again, it's a little bit of a trend that we've seen year over year. Some of these Connor Riley teams, they start out a little smaller, or they start out a little slower when it comes to offensive line play, as far as when they start to hit their stride. And we've reached that midpoint of the season where they're starting to hit their stride a little bit. But what are your thoughts on the K-State Beef coming out after really kind of an abysmal performance the previous week against Oklahoma State? How are you feeling about that group heading into the TCU matchup and then matchups further down the road here?
God, man, the O-line. When you're putting, there's multiple games this season where we're doing 200 yards rushing, and I think that's kind of where we need to be with this team. Kleiman, even after what game, the Oklahoma State game, we ran the ball reasonably well. Will went over 100 yards, Giddens had about 70, and Trayshawn Ward had in the high 50s. Chris Kleiman said, we need to be better up front. We need to be more physical. And that's what they did in this Texas Tech game, for real. They really brought it to Texas Tech's front, even when they knew they were going to run. After Avery had his fourth touchdown, he's going to run the ball. But it didn't matter, because a guy like Christian Duffy, strong, big guy, knows exactly what he's looking at from that right tackle position. He can talk to a Taylor Poitier. He could tell him what the look that we're seeing, what kind of blocking we're gonna need on this play. And Cooper Beebe is Cooper Beebe. We could do what we want with an All-American, but he's gonna get he's gonna do what he has to do. KT Levison, quiet, but he's a freak. He's a freak of nature out there at the left tackle. And Gilly even had a solid game with the pulls that he had, essential to a couple of those Avery touchdowns. The offensive line is forming and gelling ever since that UCF game. I think we've kind of gone. We haven't really taken that far dip down from the offensive line. I think we're kind of going in the right trajectory.
I think Chef kind of mentioned where I'm going to go at here, but I'm going to play on that a little bit. The confidence about the squad is different, and if you make the case, okay, well, the quarterback play is different. There's more runs involved with Avery Johnson in the game. Will Howard was still running the football effectively. But what I would say is this: getting Christian Duffy back on the offensive line is huge. It pays dividends. And it's not to shame Carver Willis whatsoever, because that guy, he had a tough start to the season, but he's still a capable Big 12 football player.
He played solid at the beginning of that game.
And he's going to continue to see snaps occasionally as guys need relief. You're going to toss somebody out there. But the thing that I continue to see is the swagger, the fear, the hungriness, like the beef. It's the beef. It's not just the dudes in the O-line room. You know what I mean? It's not just like 5 guys. We got 2 okay linemen. They might, eventually consider getting to the NFL, 7th round pick, 6th round pick. You've got multiple dogs on the offensive lineman, guys that will dominate you at this point. In the past, there it is, baby. Look at the beef, boys. We're repping the beef today. I got it on backwards. I'll flip it around here in a minute after this. But you see guys out there go and make plays. That's the difference. Cooper Beebe is Cooper Beebe. I don't need to harp on what he's going to do or what he needs to do, because that guy is that guy. But there is a serious hunger and like an animosity almost towards the defensive line that you see with Kansas State's O-line right now. And a dude that doesn't he's 0.5 of the beef here. He's half a sandwich in this sense. Ben Sinnott has been dominating defensive ends. You saw it in this game, tossing a dude on Avery's second touchdown, then getting to the second level, blocking the guy Avery walks into the end zone. That is an electric play. That's a dude that's a tight end / fullback. I know he's a tight end in my eyes, but you see a guy that's going out there competing, putting his hand in the dirt occasionally. You see people make plays. That's what gives this team confidence. I mean, the O-line deserves its flowers now. However, they are going to be tested as the schedule goes on. I mean, they're not looking at any easy tasks in the Big 12. There's going to be some solid defensive lines, even with the 4 new teams. I mean, you have guys like Nelson Caesar. You're going to face guys like Dante Corleone, or you have faced guys like Dante Corleone, that are solid players, even if they're at the 4 new addition schools, who have looked a little bit worse than the, legacy schools in the Big 12 in that sense. But they've been tested and they're going to continue to be tested. But the only difference in my eyes is the swagger, the hunger, hey, we're going to push you backwards. So it doesn't matter what you do, pal. We're pushing you backwards. That's what I'm starting to see with this O-line.
Speaking of the guys that are protecting the quarterbacks, we're now going to talk about the quarterbacks themselves. We've got the depth chart for this week. It's Avery Johnson or Will Howard officially, and then we've got the K-State beef hat there again. This was a big surprise, I think, in a lot of cases, to see Avery score 5 touchdowns. I would say I would have maybe anticipated a couple of touchdowns. I don't know about 5.
I didn't think he was even going to play. So
I think that was a big talking point last week, though, is I feel like we're probably going to see Avery, but how much do we see Avery? But I don't think we were planning on seeing 5 touchdowns from the guy, tying a record that was set by Jonathan Beasley and Colin Klein in their respective times as K-State quarterbacks, which those are 2 all-time great K-State quarterbacks there. But you've got Avery Johnson. He went 8 for 9 with 77 yards throwing and a 93.9 QBR. But the rushing game was really the tail of the tape for him, where he had 13 carries, 90 yards, 5 touchdowns, and a long of 30, which was incredible. I mean, it definitely flashed in ways that we hoped he would.
Dog.
When we saw his recruiting tape coming out of Mays, Kansas. But I love Will Howard as well. I love Will Howard. I love what he brought to this team. But I think the question I want to pose to the two of you, and it's a question, Chef, that I asked our group after the Oklahoma State game. We've seen a lot of Will Howard over 3-4 years now at K-State.
Yep.
Was that second half of last season where he came in for Adrian Martinez, do we feel like that was more or less an anomaly and he's essentially regressed back to the mean so far this season? What do you think explains why Will Howard just hasn't quite performed to the level that we thought or hoped he would this season compared to last season?
Well, I think the numbers outside of that Oklahoma State game would tell you that he didn't regress.
Yeah.
For me, I don't think he's regressed. One bad game. This game, that's where I'm kind of getting, hung up, is that the offense just doesn't look explosive. It doesn't look the same as it did at the beginning of the season to the point where we're at the UCF game. We're scoring 40 points a game, basically, outside of the Missouri and Oklahoma State game. The weapons are there. That's where I think it's getting hung up for Will Howard. The weapons aren't nearly the same as he had last year. Ben Sinnott was a commodity that he had last year, but Ben Sinnott was basically the third option. Actually, maybe the fourth option, if you really think about it, because the loss of Malik Knowles, the loss of Cade Warner, and the loss of Deuce Vaughn, as much as we want to say that Deuce Vaughn his production is being replaced by DJ Giddens and Trayshawn Ward in the running game, him as a weapon in the slot and out of the backfield is just something that is hard to replace. And I will go to bat for anybody that tries to defend what we're doing with the offense with DJ Giddens and Trayshawn Ward, but it is a fact. He was so much better in the receiving game to the point where Will Howard does look like he's regressed, but I don't think he has. Now, when it comes to what Avery Johnson provides, I think at this point with the team that we have assembled and the receivers not being able to get the separation, I think we do have to rely on the run more. And that does play into Avery Johnson's hands a lot more than Will Howard's. Unfortunately, and I don't think Will Howard's done. I don't think this is the end of Will Howard. I don't think we're writing a storybook ending for him right now. I don't think we're putting him to bed. I don't think we're sending him on a plane to Pennsylvania. It's just what it is. Avery Johnson, this is what I'll say, because I gave a lot of slack to people on the internet saying that Avery Johnson is the better option when we haven't seen him, and we've seen him. And I have to apologize to, Coley Dub. I have to apologize to a lot of people, because when the one time that we got a full half and plus of Avery Johnson, he did what a lot of people said he was going to do. He's making records at Kansas State. He's making records in NCAA. I mean, the first true freshman with 5 rushing touchdowns in NCAA history. That is bananas in pajamas. So I have to apologize, because Avery Johnson is the truth, and he has shown me evidence. So I am willing to backtrack on saying that we need to stick with Will Howard, and I'm on board. Whatever is necessary to get dubs, and I think it is Avery Johnson. So I'm fully on board.
I agree. I mean, Chef, before I jump away, because I know that I will forget exactly what you were saying for a second, because you brought up a great point about Deuce Vaughn that I want to bring up. You talked about production. Production can be replaced. Fear cannot be replaced, at least not immediately. That's the thing that I'm seeing this year. DJ Giddens is a hell of a player. Trayshawn Ward looked great against Texas Tech. He's a hell of a player in his own right. Would I put either of them into the Deuce Vaughn tier in my mind immediately? I would not. However, they can grow to that role, but it does take some time, which isn't something they can really expedite that process. I mean, DJ ran for 210 yards, 208 yards, whatever the exact thing is, in 4 scores. And we thought, I know that everybody thought that's the rushing performance of the season. How about a guy that goes out there and goes 5? That's crazy to see. But you see that with the running back room and you say, all right, they've got some good players there. But is it something you fear and you shift to the way you do a Deuce Vaughn? I
Yeah,
mean, we talk,
people aren't scheming for
yeah,
DJ Giddens and Trayshawn Ward like they would Deuce Vaughn.
exactly. And if they are, they're dropping another guy in the box, but it's not a full like Deuce Vaughn. You have a business decision to make. And it's not that he's a 6'2 giant dude running you over, but it's the thought of, all right, do I want to leave Deuce Vaughn one-on-one with my middle linebacker outside, and he has to make a tackle, otherwise Deuce is going for 60 yards? No. So I'm going to scheme another guy to shift that way, have just somebody shadowing, hey, all right, going this way, your whole assignment is get out there in the wide, secure your spot, move on from there. That hasn't been matched yet. So that's something that you have to talk about for sure. So I wanted to give you credit on that. Jumping into the quarterback stuff, because I saw a comment today that I really wanted to talk about. The staff didn't exactly help Will Howard this season. And I know that there is a time where they did to a credit. So let me explain here. But you see in each game to an extent where I think that the staff maybe fought off the regression idea, because I know I've been a big Will guy. I mean, I got the Will shirt on me right now, actually, fun fact. But I've been a big Will guy. The staff maybe pushed back on the idea that there were any type of lapses in Will's game, but like you saw with Oklahoma State, and we talked about it in the past episode, even though Will throws 3 picks, you're still in that game. You have a 1 touchdown lead if you're Oklahoma State. K-State still has a chance to go down the field and get something going. They don't exactly scheme to get Will, hey, quick pass here, quick thing here. You have to find a read down the field. You have to make a play here. You absolutely have to make a play here. And I think it's almost a situation where you're focusing last year. You're looking at last year Will Howard to say, hey, this guy will lead us. That's Will Howard. And it's not to say Will isn't capable of that play, but we did not make it easy on the guy to succeed, I would say, in this sense. And whether that be Ben Sinnott got open, Ben Sinnott's doing his thing. The receiver core, you don't have a Malik Knowles. You don't have, a Cade Warner out there on the outside yet. There is still a preface with that, because I believe if you get a Keegan Johnson healthier, you get an RJ Garcia healthy, there's plays to be made. Jay Jax has been impressive, but it hasn't been a situation that's as seamless as I think a lot of us thought it was. So that's what I'd preface with the Will Howard stuff. Avery Johnson, and I'll make it short and sweet. The dude is a dog, absolute dog. 5 rushing touchdowns is one thing. The aura that guy has running on the field, and I don't know if I can speak for you guys, but watching this game against Texas Tech, you see him walk on the field for that third game. Everybody in their seat goes from right here, all right, cool, to absolutely up, straight up wise, watching this game. Everybody is tuned in to say, what's this kid going to do? What's K-State going to do with the kid? Where's this going from here? That is a thing. And I think Avery has that right now. And it's not a Will Howard won't be successful later. He won't be XYZ thing. He is an absolute asset to have, but it's tough to ignore what Avery Johnson did on the field this weekend. And we're going to see him play. I mean, worst case scenario, you see him at a 50-50. That's where I'm at right now. Absolute worst case scenario. I think Avery's going to be the guy when it's like, hey, we need somebody to make a play. Last year, that was a Deuce Vaughn, that was a Ben Sinnott. You haven't had that guy yet. Avery showed I have the chance to be that guy. That's the thing that I have a tough time moving past yet. But it's nothing against Will Howard. Love Will. I mean, I think one thing real quick before I move on from this, the confidence and the energy on the sideline, that tells you a lot. I mean, you watched a team like USC lose this week, and you saw Caleb Williams kind of just leaning back, moving the camera away, trying to be out of the sight just because he didn't want to do anything with Lincoln Riley's comments, not to bury USC, but Will Howard is immediately that guy on the sideline talking to Avery. What do we need to do? What's happening here? That's the biggest thing. The energy is there. The positivity is there. There isn't some weird ego thing going on. The quarterback room knows what they're about, and that's the biggest thing. Even if some fans kind of get away from that at times, not to dunk on our fans because I love them all to death, but that does happen in college sports. K-State isn't going to let that happen.
I think there's a lot of outside noise, and I think that's kind of been the mantra. I mean, if you just listen to the post-game comments from Austin Moore from the Oklahoma State game, I think they're humans. They're people, they're kids. They listen to a lot of the stuff that, people like us put out there. We all have opinions, and my opinion isn't worth a damn, but a kid will still listen to it and think that they're hot shit, and they haven't proved anything. And it kind of culminated in what happened at Oklahoma State. And I think their new mantra is to block out that noise. I think it's all internalized now. I think they're in that bunker, they're in that purple bunker, and they're just going 1 week at a time, one practice at a time. And I think that's kind of what they need. And they could make, if they were still listening to that outside noise, I think they could make this Will Howard and Avery Johnson thing a negative. But I think it's going to be an absolute positive for this team, because you're going to need Will Howard, and I think he's been in this situation almost to a T, with the Adrian Martinez thing. He thought he was going to be the starter. They bring in Adrian Martinez, and now he's back on the bench. And not that there's anything wrong with that, because he is ready. He is a relief pitcher. He's ready to come in at a moment's notice and do what he has to do. But I think the writing's on the wall. Unfortunately for Will Howard, it's just Avery's time. And we're going to see some things with Avery Johnson where he might have some stumbles, but I think you're going to have to live with that, because you would live with that with Will Howard. You have to. But to have two quarterbacks where they're ready at a moment's notice, I think this is only a positive for K-State if they can keep their heads down and ready to go, and, focus on TCU.
I would say super fast before we jump topics. I think realistically, none of us think that this is the last time we saw Will Howard, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Will Howard's back. There's going to be a time when you need Will at some point to either make a play or go out there and command the offense. It doesn't feel like if you took 9 universities, or if you took 10 universities, 9 of those would not be a good situation with the quarterback room. K-State feels like the anomaly that they could make this work. There's going to be some type of optimism in that room that I feel good about at this point in the season.
And real quick before we move on to just talking a little bit more about the season as a whole, I think when we look back at Will Howard's performance last season, kind of tying it back to my original question, I think a lot of those really tight windows that he was throwing into, they would maybe be deemed turnover worthy throws, but we just happened to make the play there. I almost equate it to hockey. Like hockey, you have puck luck in some games, and there are some games where you don't have puck luck. The Colorado Avalanche, that happened this weekend. We had 50 shots on goal. We didn't make a single goal until the last 2 minutes of the game, and ended up winning in overtime. But it's kind of reminds me of puck luck in a way where he's throwing into those tight windows last year. And in that Oklahoma State game, he's doing the same thing. He's throwing into those tight windows in all of these games this year where he's had multiple interceptions or an interception. I feel like he's just not necessarily getting that puck luck that he might have gotten last year in some of those games where he's throwing into those tight windows. And it just hasn't worked in his favor this season for whatever that's worth. But I think I agree with everybody's point here in that we haven't seen the last of Will Howard. We will continue to see Will Howard throughout the season in different situations where his number is going to get called on. And Avery Johnson, that kid is lightning in a bottle. He's going to be awesome at K-State. He's going to have hopefully a pretty good 3-4 year career here, however many years it ends up being. But he's electric. It's going to be super fun to watch him carry this team and have some of that leadership that he didn't have prior to this game. And so that just excites me to be able to see Avery Johnson start to get some of that leadership that we've been wanting to see out of him, that we know he has because he was able to do that at Mays when he was in high school. But
yeah, totally. Sorry, I'll jump in one last time if you don't mind. We're rolling with the topic. Let me jump in then again. What's a lame topic to talk about?
What?
I don't know if you guys saw it. I mean, you guys definitely saw it this week for how active we all are on social media. Did you guys see the whole Avery Johnson can't throw the football thing? Did you guys catch any wind of that? Can't throw the football thing. Did you catch any wind of that?
Hilarious.
No, I didn't.
I mean, it might have been
see any of that.
It might have been a Cyclone Larry. Hey, tossing it out there. The dude can rip the piss out of the ball, bro. I am so excited to see
damn hard.
He wasn't getting recruited to Washington and Oregon because he can't fucking throw the ball.
Guy isn't going to Elite 11 because he can't throw the football. That was a narrative that I saw this week is like, hey, ran for 5 tuds. You can't do what in the passing game. Dude, Avery is electric. That guy is absolute. I mean, he has the aura that I haven't seen a quarterback have in the last, since Colin Klein. I mean, Colin Klein is the last guy I saw where it's like, this dude steps on the field and it's an immediate advantage. No matter what the team across from you is, that's what Avery has. Yeah, I got caught up in some of that this weekend, and I was trying to See if you guys caught any wind of that. There was a lot of that from, I mean, not K-State fans whatsoever. Everybody knows what they're about. Guy throws for 5,000 passing yards at Mays, and arguably like rushing was his second option at Mays. It wasn't his moment where he's, hey, first read's open, I'm going. No, the guy is an absolute
wasn't he
dog.
top 10 in the country in passing yards as a high school quarterback or something?
Yeah. I mean, you go to Elite 11, you're not just going to be, hucking the rock. I mean, you're going to be absolutely spreading that thing around. Avery, that was the vibe I got.
He can sling it. He throws absolute missiles. I mean, he throws so hard. I would love to see, the offense expanded to, the throws that Will Howard was making with Ben Sinnott, that 25-yard pass over the linebacker.
Strike.
I'm ready to see that from Avery and see if he has that touch. He's elite, and I knew he was elite. I knew he was gonna be the guy. I didn't know if he was ready now, and absolutely he is. And I'm all on board. I'm an Avery guy. I'm ready to. For me, I think this is going to be what it takes to go over the edge. I would love to see like a 75-25 split. Get Will in there to control. Get a drive. See what it does, because I think he works so. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but DJ Giddens wasn't really in there with Avery. I think it was more of a Trayshawn thing. I would love to see the dynamic between Avery and Giddens, but I don't know if it's Will Howard and Giddens that kind of do that split. So, just I don't know what to do, because it's our brand new toy. I don't know how the dynamic's going to work, but I think TCU is going to be in a world of hurt when they have to figure out what they're going to try to do.
Yeah, I mean, the cats are rolling. That's what it is. That's what this all comes down to. The cats are rolling. But I will say, I think that someone brought up the fact of the Trayshawn Ward, DJ Giddens conversation today. And I think the biggest thing I saw is like, K-State, this is going to be the first time we've ever seen where there is someone that could be a Big 12 weekly award winner every week that has never graced that to that point in the season. It's not a 1-to-1 ratio of, all right, this is your key guy, you go to these guys. There could be a Trayshawn Ward, a DJ Giddens, an Avery Johnson, a Will Howard. There's a lot of different options on this team. And I think that's going to take a little bit longer than, fans, coaches, players, everybody expects. But that's kind of where I'm at with this team. And I'm excited to see what happens next week because, for all I know, I mean, Phillip Brooks has 4 tuds and 200 receiving yards next week. So that happens, boys. Quote me on that one.
Damn, I'm ready for that.
I would sign me up.
Lock it in, I guess. Don't put me, extra money on that, but just, keep it in the back of your mind.
So of those 4 touchdowns, how many are being thrown by Avery and how many are being thrown by Will?
Maybe one's
3-1.
Maybe one's thrown by Trayshawn Ward. He's got one on the book. So
Jake Rubley throws all 4, and then we all walk the next week, and we're all confused.
Nope. I cannot. No. I can't. My brain would melt.
That would break.
I don't want to talk about it, Jake. No disrespect to Jake, great guy, I'm sure, but that's a whole different podcast. I mean, I'll give you maybe a 3-1 split if there's 4 tuds to Phillip Brooks.
Yeah. So looking back on this Texas Tech game before we move on, how does this game change the trajectory of this season? Because it's been a weird season for K-State to this point. You've got the loss to Missouri. You've got the loss to Oklahoma State, which maybe Oklahoma State is turning a corner after they beat Kansas. I mean,
to tell you.
I mean, what does that Texas Tech game mean for the rest of this season?
Okay, for the Texas Tech game, man, if we were to, let's get in a time machine and go back to the beginning of the season 6 games ago and say, hey, what's the, Bosco's boys did a great, Scott McFarland does a great job with this. What's the key game? What's the pivotal game? A lot of people are going to say Texas Tech. And you get a road win versus Texas Tech, who was 2-1 in the conference. They hung with Oregon. It's a salty team. That was the dark horse team that everybody had pegged as maybe a potential Big 12 champion. So that team was still there. And what it does is I think there's a lot of layers to this. You win the game, 1, huge, keeps you out of that 2-loss column in the Big 12. And the other part is I think you finally found your dynamic of what you want to do as a team. I think you found your identity. I think you found your quarterback. I think a lot of things were answered. So that to me says that this game is that it's done a lot for the team. I think it's a get right game. Obviously, you lose in Stillwater and you get one in Lubbock. I think it's a get right game. I think it sends the momentum of this team skyward rather than, crashing down to the ground and having to come back with our tails tucked between our legs to Manhattan.
It's so wild. It is so wild to consider because I was not on the OSU bandwagon, and that's not even bandwagon. I mean, at this point, it wasn't even, it's a horseless carriage. They don't know what's going on at that point. OSU comes back and beats two really good football teams, Kansas State, Kansas State, Kansas in that order. But the thing that I'm blown away by is like, look at Texas Tech, because we've talked about it. I know every podcast has talked about it. They are your dark horse candidate heading into the season. Joey McGuire's squad, they're talking about it. Hey, it's Big 12 title game or bust to an extent. That team does not look anywhere close to a top half team right now. I mean, you have your third string freshman quarterback, and I know injuries are a thing. I know there's different things, but like, they're not giving their best players the football. Taj Brooks, there is a reason to be concerned about that. There's serious questions on the defensive side of the ball. There's serious questions in the locker room. There's things going on. But like, if Kansas State loses this game, I saw something about it. This is a title game eliminator, and it is early in the season. It is, but it is a title game eliminator. Could either of you see Texas Tech, even with their starting quarterback rolling back next week, do you see them getting to a title game at this point in the season?
I mean, I think 2 games was the eliminator at this point in the season. I think just because how the race is set up and who we have in our league, I don't see Texas losing too many more games, and they're kind of the pace horse, if you will, if a horse racing analogy, they're the pace horse because everybody outside of Oklahoma has to keep up with Texas. And if you're losing and you're losing ground on that pace horse, you're going to get left behind. So to stay with that one loss, I think there's got to be 14 teams with one loss in the Big 12. It seems like, West Virginia, they dropped one to Houston and they're still in it.
Iowa State's in second place in the conference.
Oklahoma State.
They're in
come
lone
on.
second.
We're in a like 5-way tie with Texas and.
I mean, Houston's
Kansas.
the first first new school to get a win over a Big 12. I mean, that's crazy. That is absolutely ridiculous.
Did not
have
on my bingo card this year.
So for me, saying what you just said, I think it's once Texas Tech lost that second game to us, I think that kind of it put water on the fire of any dreams that they had. Mm-hmm. So we're still alive. I think it's a lot of these games are going to be that. The next couple weeks is elimination games. So a lot of one-loss teams are going to teams that don't have wins, and a lot of it's just it's every week, and for as bad as we shit on the Big 12, saying how down it was at the beginning, me and you, Bob, we were shitting on the Big 12, boy. It's still just as fun. It's still just as competitive. It's still everything that we could have asked for in the Big 12, even if all the non-con losses and all that, once conference play hit, it's still so fun. It's still the best.
Chef is spitting right now. I mean, he knows what he's talking about. Absolutely. I mean,
I'm hyped.
Dude, it's crazy. 2 losses is a title game eliminator in the Big 12 right now. That's a real world that we live in. I mean, you see,
and it might, and like I said last week,
it could not be.
and like I said last week, we don't know nothing. We don't know shit. Like once next week happens, we're going to be talking about like, oh, this, that, and the other, and we don't know anything.
So Houston's the favorite to win the Big 12.
UCF this week, man.
Watch
that happen on.
So we got Houston and UCF in the Big 12 title game. No, but it is crazy to see. Like, if you win this game, the vibe is vastly different because I'm not so sure the quarterback debate is what is talked about nearly as much. Even if Avery is, I mean, if you rush for 5 touchdowns and you lose, I don't even want to preface those conversations because I have no idea what the hell happens at that point. But
I think I can write a storyline for you right now. If we
All right,
lose that game and
let's
Avery
hear
has
it.
5 touchdowns, we're shipping Will Howard back, and we're never going to play him again.
he's
And it's
written
Avery's
off.
team. No matter what he does, we're playing for the future. No matter if we're 3-3 and Avery gets a little bit of taste and he's 5 touchdowns in and we lose, we're just
Yeah.
playing for the future. We're playing all freshmen at wide receiver. We're playing Avery at quarterback full
Right.
time. It would be totally different. But I think, like I said earlier, I think that is why it was beneficial to win, because it answered a lot of questions and it kept us in the race. So we're still competitive.
Yes, 100%. And I'll get off this in a sec, but it answered questions and it silenced doubts. Oh my God, it silenced doubts. That's the biggest thing,
yeah.
man. So,
For
I mean,
sure.
you guys both know what I'm talking about, but like this has felt like an exception this season where there has been more invested from the fan base saying, hey, this guy's a bum. This guy's not a bum. Fire this guy. Keep this guy. There's a lot of moving pieces this year that I didn't anticipate, but I'll tell you what, teams like West Virginia, teams like Oklahoma State, teams like Iowa State, I'm not so sure I had Iowa State winning 5 games heading into the season. Did anybody at this point? Did Matt Campbell at this point? I mean, you have teams
No.
no,
They didn't
absolutely
have a quarterback. Their quarterback was out spending money on DraftKings.
Oh, yeah. I mean, making a $500 bet that they cover the I mean, come on, man.
Making $7.26 bets on average over like 2,000 bets.
I'll tell you what, if 726 is your average to not play, man, that's a hell of a year right there, buddy. No disrespect to Hunter, but man. But it's crazy to see what has already transpired. But like, Chef mentioned it, OU, Texas. These teams aren't going to lose three games. I mean, one of them could in a very strange breakdown, but it's just that's not the case. I mean, the best opponent they're going to face, I saw a tweet today talking about it from an Iowa State guy who Iowa State fans have a very passionate Iowa State feeling about themselves. But you see like the idea of, okay, there's winnable games on the schedule. You host Texas with 2 losses. It's what's going to happen. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen, and it will not end well. That is what I've seen this season. So it's figure out your issues, roll from there, escape with less than 3 losses. You're going to be close enough to the conversation, but it might not, even 2 losses might not get you into the conversation. That's what's changed this year. So it's good that Kansas State avoided 3 losses. We'd have a very different conversation. It's also good that Kansas State found their spark plug and found out how to have that juice again. That is the biggest thing.
Absolutely. Chef, what's on the menu this week? What are you cooking up for your recipe for success against the TCU Horned Frogs?
Well, like I said, going out of that Oklahoma State game, I didn't know what we were going to do. I didn't know what possible recipe we could even possibly cook to get a dub. And you know what? The coaches are a lot smarter than me because they have game plans and they do this for a living. I'm an idiot. So if Avery is getting that run, let's try to open that up for him. Let's open this bag of chips. Let's see what's in there. Let's see if we can make something out of it. Can we get Avery to get a full playbook? Can we possibly get the receivers to run crisper routes and make Avery look as good as possible? Because I think that's going to be our focal point. That's our key ingredient is Avery Johnson. We found it. We found the secret ingredient and we're going to use it now. So let's make it look as good as freaking possible. Get Avery Johnson the ball. Let's run some offense for him. Let's run some of that Will Howard offense for freaking Avery Johnson. I would love to see it.
No, I'm not as skilled in the kitchen. I'm a big crock pot guy. I don't have the full recipe locked up.
Love a crock pot.
Love a crock pot. Chef knows what it's about. I mean,
love a crock pot.
Toss a couple chicken breasts in there. We got a party going on. But I'll tell you this.
Yeah. Cream of chicken in there, throw some broccoli in there, dude. You're cooking.
Should you toss a little barbecue sauce in the party? I mean,
damn.
you got something to talk about there. But I'll say this. You mentioned run the full offense. That is a huge piece of the pie. I mean, that's your bread, your butter, your crust, your whatever you want to toss in the ingredients. That is it. But if you get 3 turnovers on defense, you're going to beat some teams. It doesn't matter if it's I'm not going to make this statement yet because I know I will get crucified for it. If it's if it's a Will Howard, if it's an Avery Johnson, we know there's going to be a split somewhere in that lineup of between Avery and Will. However, our defense had not generated turnovers, hardly at all at this point in the season. I mean, you had the Des Purnell punch out against UCF. You had a couple of plays here and there, but you don't have Kobe snagging 2 picks every week. You had that this past week. Avery Johnson was that dude and can continue to be that dude. We do have to open up the offense. I mean, it's not a question of can he, it's a question of will the coaches open up the offense because Avery is ready. Will knows. Will is ready when he's needed to on the sideline. Like there's a full breakdown of that. But I would say keys for victory against TCU. It's if you generate 3 turnovers, you're going to win a lot of football games.
Yeah,
8 out of 10 games, you're going to win games.
Yeah, I mean, specifically for this TCU game, I didn't even bring up defense because I've got Avery on the brain. But creating turnovers, you see how quick a game can flip. I mean, the score was what, 21-24, and we got the interception, and then it just landed. I mean, we just buried them. So I think it could flip on a dime like that, and we've got another true freshman coming into Manhattan. Can we get after that boy? Can we get some turnovers for that Hoover vacuum cleaner? That's not the only thing he's going to be sucking. You feel me, baby? Let's go.
Oh, I feel you, baby.
Lock him in, baby.
Chef, kick us off with your score prediction for Saturday against the Frogs.
I'm feeling confident. I feel real good about this team. I feel excellent coming off of a win, and I think the mindset of the team has changed. I think TCU has got some weapons. They're dangerous. I think their defense is a little underappreciated, but I think we do things so much different at home. We look like a totally different team. Will Howard, Avery Johnson, I don't think it matters. I got the score 41-28 Cats. I think we're dropping another 40 burger. I love us at home. That was a road win at Lubbock, and we almost dropped 40. Before that, we looked kind of dog shit on the road. But I think getting back – is this homecoming?
No, that's Houston.
This isn't homecoming?
It's Houston.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, homecoming isn't actually homecoming this year.
Homecoming is Houston
weird.
this year.
That's weird. Okay, so it would have been nice for this to have been homecoming. This is probably Harley Day. It always seems like Harley Day is on TCU games. But
find out.
Find out for me.
Last
Stats
year
and
was
info.
the Texas game. I was at the Texas game. It was Harley Day.
Fuck.
Someone in the general state will be Harley Day.
But I feel confident that this team at home, 41-28 Cats.
Harley Day is Saturday against TCU.
I knew it. It seems like it's always TCU.
The boys are ready, man.
Anytime TCU is in Manhattan, we're gonna bring those damn Harleys out.
Oh man. Well, I'm gonna go ahead with my prediction. I'm going with the same thing I did last week. The Bob Trollsby reverse jinx. I've got the Frogs winning 31-29, baby. And you know what that means. That means something other than the Frogs winning. Maybe. We'll see. I don't know. Joe, what you got?
Besides this forehead line, I got some other things to talk about. I'll tell you what. This is a win. It's a win for the boys, for the good guys. 814 Cats. Avery Johnson runs for 76 touchdowns. Will Howard throws for 24. No. But what it will be is a 34-24 game. Kansas State secures the win. I don't know if it's a full, 85 Avery Johnson, 15 Will. I'm not a great math guy, but I don't know if it's a full swing, and that's not a math pot.
15 would be accurate there.
How about that? I tell you what, second try is a charm. I think that what we're going to see is that they're going to see defense, special teams. You're going to continue to see them show up because that is the thing that Avery Johnson runs for 5 touchdowns. Is anybody going to talk about the defense? Is anybody talking about special teams as much as they are offense? No. But you saw a change in the energy of Kansas State. You're going to see that again this week. I think it's important to keep in mind because Josh Hoover, that dude's a dog for TCU. He's a good player. However, he is early enough in his career that you can throw some stuff at him that he has not seen. For one career start, there's going to be things that he has not seen.
Absolutely.
He hasn't seen number 2. I mean, double bicep rings across from the line. No way. There's going to be some plays made on defense. Kansas State takes it. I feel good about the Cats this weekend. Whether that be another Avery another Avery 4 or 5 touchdown performance, I will not comment on. But I tell you what, it's going to be a hell of a day for the boys.
Oh shit!
And on that note,
Bob is off.
We lost the video for Bob there, man.
you didn't lose. You didn't lose it.
He's making that.
Oh,
premiere,
let's
bro.
go.
On that note,
Baby.
we're moving on to our Week 7 locks. Each week, we share our locks for 3 Big 12 matchups, 1 national game of the week, and 1 sicko game. Chef won last week with a 3-2 record. Fireball Matt came in second with a 2-3 record overall, and I came in last as the bag boy for second straight week with a 1-4 record. That brings our season standings to Fireball Matt, who is still in first place with a much more narrow 18-16-1 record overall. Chef is in second now with a 16-17-2 record overall. And I am in last place with a
Shout out
16-19 record overall. Chef's 2 pushes put him above me, regardless of it being tied in the win column, mind you. And yet again, I'm wearing this stupid fucking bag on my head. We're not going to go through last week's picks.
Where did I get another push?
All I'm going to say is shout out
2
Matt,
pushes.
dude.
You
Matt's
had
cooking
2
right now.
pushes already.
Did I?
Yes.
Oh, that sucks.
Yes.
Oh,
We
man.
are I'm gonna go ahead and start with my locks because as the loser, I'm gonna kick it off, get it over with. Dear God. Okay. Big 12, game number 1. I'm picking Baylor plus 2.5 at Cincinnati. Scott Satterfield sucks ass. The only game I won last week was Cincinnati, betting against Cincinnati and betting for Iowa State. So I'm riding the Cincinnati anti-Scott Satterfield train. Go Bears, sick 'em, 2.5. I'm taking Texas Tech minus 4.5 at BYU. Yeah, no, they don't look like a Big 12 title contender, but Texas Tech is a salty team, and they are definitely better than BYU, who got shellacked by a TCU this past weekend in Fort Worth. So I'm going with the Red Raiders. And then I'm going with the Houston Cougars coming off of a massive victory against the West Virginia Mountaineers. I'm taking them plus 22.5 versus Texas. They are going to still lose that game against Texas, but I'm taking them on the spread, so it doesn't matter. My national game of the week, I'm going with the Duke Blue Devils plus 13.5 at the Florida State Seminoles. Duke has looked stellar this year. Duke is looking very good this year. Don't tell me they're going to go in there and lose by 2 touchdowns to Florida State. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. They might still lose, but it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a salty Duke Blue Devils team going in, playing in Tallahassee under the lights. I don't even know if it's at night or not, but it doesn't matter. My sicko game, I've got the James Madison University, whatever they are, minus 3.5 at the Marshall Thundering Herd. JMU, I saw this line. JMU is they've beaten P5 teams by a shit ton of points. How are they? I mean, I haven't watched a ton of Marshall this year. I think Marshall's okay, but I think JMU is going to beat the shit out of them. Honestly, I don't know.
If you look at Marshall's field, it's so funny because their greens don't match. They wear a different color green than the green on their field. It's so gross. It's the worst thing I've ever seen. James Madison, what is their mascot? Are they the Dukes?
Are they?
I know it's
Duke?
like
I think
it's like it's like a bulldog with a big collar. I'm not sure.
Duke and the Dukes this week.
I think Dukes are they the Dukes? Is that Duquesne? Are we talking about JMU?
No, I don't know.
I'll look it up. How about that one? I'll look it up.
Info, get on that. I'm gonna go with my locks
They are
now
the Dukes.
because they are the Dukes.
They are
It's
the
on
Dukes.
me. That one's on me. I owe the team. I owe the
Let's
boys one for
go.
that one.
I know things. I know
He knows
sports ball.
He knows ball.
All right, so here's Andre's locks. I'm a winner. But last 2 weeks I'm making you money if you just follow along with me. So just keep doing that. My first one, easiest game to ever pick. Texas off of a bye going into Houston, who just freaking had their biggest emotional game that they're ever going to have on a Hail Mary versus West Virginia. Get out of here. They're going to drag them by 45. Give me Texas minus 22.5. That's easy money. Just take that to the bank. Baylor. Oh my God. Come on. Are you serious right now? At Cincinnati, we're doing this song and dance again. Road road dogs going into Cincinnati. I don't care how shit Baylor is. There's no way that Cincinnati's going to be able to win this game by 3 points. No chance. Baylor, give it to me, baby. Let's go, Baylor Bears. Rawr, whatever their hand signal is. West Virginia. This is a spicy one for me. You know, I think they're going to rebound. I think they're going to get their mind right. Neil Brown, you don't want to lose this team because you've been riding high. Everybody's finally going to say that your job is secure, and it would just be a shame for you to lose 2 straight. So give me West Virginia minus the 3.5. I love it. I love this spot for West Virginia. They need it. And if I'm wrong, then, you know, Neil Brown's packing his shit again. My national game, my home state right now, the Ohio State Buckeyes versus Penn State Nittany Lions at home, big noon kickoff. Ohio State's minus 4.5 points. This is a spicy game. This is, you know, they call it the trifecta in the Big Ten East. You got Penn State, you got Michigan, and you got freaking Ohio State. This is the first one of those 3 matching up. So Ohio State needs it if they want that national championship that they're looking for since 2015. So give me Ohio State minus the 4.5 at home. It's going to be crazy. And then my sicko game, Sam Houston State. I think they. This is a shame. I don't think they've won a single game, or they've won one game, and they're 5-point favorites. Are you kidding me? Florida International is doo-doo. Oh my God. Give me Sam Houston State minus the points. They don't have a win, I don't think, and they're gonna win. Let's go. Favorites. Sam Houston State. Give me the points.
Well, boys, that's a lot to follow. There's a lot of moving pieces there, but I tell you what, next podcast appearance, I do not want to be wearing the bag, so I'm not bringing it this week. But I tell you what, I'm bringing a 5-0 slate here. Everybody, go tell your lawyer, go tell your bookie, your bank account guy, tell them to send you a couple bit of money. And let me start off with one the boys all feel great about. Give me the Baylor Bears +2 against Cincinnati. Cincinnati, I mean, Bob said it was astic or slap, whatever the description was, slap, whatever. They are horrible at football. Cincinnati, like, I could give you every type of like why they aren't going to cover the spread or why they aren't good at football. How about this one? They are not very good. They are not a good football team. Emory Jones, I mean, if interceptions were the goal, that is a team I'd bet on. But I tell you what, give me Baylor +2. Baylor's not great. I wouldn't bet on them to win a lot of games. Cincinnati looks like they're playing like a JV lacrosse team right now. They're not that team. So I'm gonna take Baylor, even though it's been used a few times. And now, actually, I feel less great about this one. But I tell you what, less great is still 120%. Give me, dramatic pause here, BYU +4.5 versus Tech. I'm going to roll with it, and I'll justify this one more than I will the other ones. The pissed off nature is one thing. You can say, well, they're going to play hard after a big loss. That's one thing. Texas Tech, I will still not roll with the team starting a third-string quarterback who is a true freshman who has played half of a football game willingly and be like, that is the guy. If Baron Morton's out there, I'm not touching this line. No freaking way. But the line wouldn't be that way. It'd be a toss-up. It'd be a Tech by 2, whatever the case is. Give me BYU +4.5. The game's at home in Provo. They've been a different team at home versus Texas Tech. I will take BYU on that one. And I feel okay. Not as good as I do about Baylor, but I'll take it. Third game here, which has also been brought up. Chef, I'm looking at you. Give me Oklahoma State +3.5 at West Virginia. Morgantown sucks to play at. Nobody likes Morgantown. Nobody wants to go in there and say, you know what, we'll try. The one thing that you've seen West Virginia do all year, they have played their style of football at home. Do I think Mike Gundy's going to be a team that will sacrifice how they play or whatever the case is going to be? I thought there was no way in hell that Oklahoma State won, even though they're at home against Kansas. Flip that narrative. You go to Morgantown. I know it's a tough place to play. I know that West Virginia is figuring some things out. Chef said it best. If Neil Brown loses this game, pack your bags, whatever you need to pack up, your toothbrush, your floss, whatever you want to talk about. Wouldn't Neil Brown be the guy? Wouldn't Neil Brown be the guy to lose 2 in a row here? Come on.
He could be.
He sure as well could be. I will take Mike Gundy over West Virginia plus 3.5. If it's at 2.5, I don't feel good about this line, and I would not take it. 3.5, I'll take it. I will take Oklahoma State plus 3.5 there. Getting to my national line, maybe there's a drum roll on this one, maybe there's not. I felt weird about it. But I'll say it. Give me South Carolina plus 7.5 at Missouri. Does it feel good-ish? Yes. Does it feel great? No. But I still think Missouri has been playing out of their boots, man. They have been playing good football. They had their punter throw for a 58-yard touchdown this week. I mean, they are on one right now. It is at home. It is in the zoo. They've played great. And in case you didn't know, you need to go look up how to be a fan. I tell you what, there's some content out there you can use. Rule number 1 at the zoo, don't cover against South Carolina. That's what I'm rolling with. That's what I'm taking. My sicko mode game of the week here. Give me Coastal Carolina plus 10 at Arkansas State. I think the Red Wolves, the Coastal Carolinas, that's what they are. I will take Coastal Carolina to cover. Or they might be minus 10. I think I wrote that plus 10. I'm going to take Coastal Carolina minus 10, I believe is the actual spread. I might have to double check that. Whatever Coastal Carolina is, I will take them. Arkansas State is not a great football team. They do have a running back that played in the state of Kansas. Pretty cool. They're not very good outside of that. So I will take Coastal Carolina in that front. That is my locks. If it's 5-0, I'll come back and I will wear the inverted bag on top of my head like a top hat. So that is my picks for this week.
It's some kind of rooster. I don't remember what they call it. It's like some with a CH. Chanticleers.
That's what Arkansas State is?
No. Coastal Carolina. They're the Chanticleers. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I love their campus. You literally have to drive to get to Myrtle Beach. You have to drive through it. And it's like you just see this random teal field on the side of the road. It's beautiful. I love it. I love Coastal Carolina's their whole university.
The vibe.
Line on that game again?
I thought it was 10. Let me double check because I couldn't tell if it was plus 10. I think it was minus 10. And I think I wrote plus 10 because
also I want to talk about your Missouri pick. This is literally the biggest trap game in Missouri history. They have Georgia coming up next week. After this week, there's 0% chance they're even thinking about South Carolina.
I'm just saying. And Spencer Rattler, I mean, I'm not going to go to bat for the guy and say he's a 10 out of 10 or anything like that. Just because he sounds like Patrick Mahomes does not change the fact of the on-the-field play. The guy's voice might be one thing. He's a hell of a football player at the college ranks where he's at right now. They played Georgia within 10. I mean, Missouri.
Probably. I mean, they played LSU to within 10.
Well, no, they did. Well, it wasn't Rattler, but obviously it was the
team. Oh, you're talking South Carolina.
Yeah, South Carolina. Sorry, I'm jumping. It wasn't the Coast Carolina.
And
what did you say? Chandeliers? Was that
Chanticleers?
Chanticleers. There we go.
Yeah, it's a big rooster. It's kind of awesome.
I will double check on our big rooster friends here.
So speaking of Missouri, I did. If we were going to win that game, I had this whole thing created that I was going to play at the beginning.
Classic.
Should I just play it now? Like, it doesn't matter anymore.
It matters now to me. You have to play it.
Do you actually have to be on cocaine to be on this podcast?
No, we're not knocking on the door. We're busting in, and we ain't waiting anymore.
Whoa.
Wait for it.
Gotta win, gotta fight, yeah.
K-State.
We ain't taking our time, oh, we in a hurry. Screw around the zoo, we are.
K-State.
We are.
K-State.
So who you?
Yeah, that was going to be our theme song if we won that game.
Once you sent that midweek, I knew we're fucked.
It was over. It was over.
Oh,
it was over.
Coastal Carolina minus 10. I apologize. I wrote plus 10. I'll take a minus 10 gladly, just as well. Even though that's a 20-point swing. We sure are K-State, aren't we, boys?
We
We
are.
are K-State. Screw
Yeah.
Mizzou.
The
We
rules
are
of the zoo, the rules of the zoo did not bode well, but I tell you what, I will take the rules of the Gamecocks this week. I will be glad about that one on the road.
in the Mayor's Cup.
The Mayor's
Oh,
Cup. Hey,
wow.
7.5 points is a lot of points for that game.
I love that
I
they just
kinda-
kind of make up all of these stupid rivalries.
know,
They
that
go
is
in
the
conference
worst.
where they
That's
have
the
no
worst
history
one.
with anybody.
So the winner has to change mayor, or the loser has to change mayors of the town, right?
That would be-
Columbia gets a new mayor.
There's an uprising in Columbia.
Yeah, the fans go charge. The cat. Yeah,
A militia is just showing up at the mayor's house.
that could
sure-
happen in either of those states too.
they
Exactly.
sure are Mizzou. I tell you what, Shakespeare's Pizza is the hub that they meet out beforehand.
Oh man.
Oh,
Well,
man.
I mean, any final thoughts or anything from either of you before we get out of here?
I just hope we're all happy. We're gonna have a great week. It's gonna be hell. It's gonna be a hell of a buildup. And who runs out of that tunnel and takes that first snap from Gillum is gonna be epic. And I want to say one thing. My last thing. I hope the crowd doesn't treat Will Howard like shit. If he is out there, I do not want to hear no boos. I don't want to hear none of that shit. We need to be supporting him no matter what, whoever's out there. But we cannot have, because I just know it's going to happen though. Unfortunately, if Will Howard takes a snap, I think we're going to hear some boo birds, and I just don't want to see it. But I encourage people, please do not do that.
Yeah, we don't need any of that. What was it, the Southern Illinois or the Nevada game? Whichever that game was where they were chanting Jake Rubley. We don't need that shit. Like if you're planning on doing that, don't even fucking think about it.
Right.
Yeah, shit. I'll follow that one up. Stay home. Stay home if you're gonna do that. I'll tell you this right now. I'm all about the fans. Don't be a slapdick in the stands, guys. That is the biggest thing. Like, there's enough college kids there that will do what they want to do, say what they want to say. We don't need an extra influence of that, guys.
No.
Okay, be who you want to be. Do what you want to do. I'm not here to control you. I'm not your dad, but don't be that guy, man. That is the biggest thing. I will say this. I had a funny thing about you guys being great and keep grinding. I'll save that for another show, I guess. But I will say this. Yeah, I mean, Will Howard. Don't look at Will Howard as a problem. Don't look at him as the reason Avery is good at football. Don't look at it as whatever you want to say. Understand that football is not easy all the time. It's not just a, hey, sunshine, daisies, rainbows, whatever you want to say. Will Howard is still a hell of an athlete, still a hell of an asset to have at Kansas State University. And the biggest thing, like, Avery Johnson wouldn't be post-game saying, I would literally die for Will Howard if he didn't deserve it. That's just the case.
Exactly.
There's a lot of great representatives of the university on the field. It's crazy to me that the message has to be block out the noise, because the noise coming in may not be the same coming back that they've seen in the past. Let's all love this university. Let's all be supportive of the university, be fans, and trust the process, dude. I'll tell you what, if I knew what was right, I'd be on that sideline. I'm not on that sideline. I don't know what's right. We're all rolling together. Everybody support your university. Be fans of K-State, man. Wear the purple proud. Be yourself. Be whatever you want to be. Have fun with it. But yeah, don't do any of the booing shit. I mean, just enjoy the moment, because you're going to see Avery. You're going to see Will. Will's still a dog. If I was a betting man, I'd probably still expect to see Will in the first snap. We'll talk from there. We'll see what happens after that, but it is still up in the air. That's the biggest thing. So don't think if it's okay, Chris Kleiman, we need to talk about this. We need to do this. No, man, just enjoy the moment, dude. Enjoy football. It's good to be representative, in a top 25 setting. Obviously, we're not there yet, but that's where this team has the potential to get to. It's enjoyable to be part of that moment. Don't be that guy, I would say. So sorry to be so negative on the outro.
No, I could not have said that any better myself. Joe, thank you a ton for being on, as well as our guest co-host for 2 episodes this week while Fireball Matt is grinding away at work. Joe, go ahead and we just want to give you an opportunity to plug whatever you want to and let the people know where they can find you.
Well, I feel like I'd be doing a disservice if I didn't shout out Fireball Matt, my guy. Went to the store specifically to grab some minis for Matt. So shout out Matt.
He's going to love that.
I hope so. He's a good dude. You guys do a great job, man. I will plug myself here in a sec, man. Keep grinding, boys. You got a great thing going for you. You got a lot of great people on the show, and I appreciate hearing your episodes every week. So that's a great thing to see. I will say this, and I've talked about this to other people. This feels like the renaissance of what Kansas State can be as a university. and I'm excited to see what happens going forward. Whether that be basketball, football, you've got the right guys in both sports. It's great to see the positivity going forward, and you guys are further establishing that. So huge shout out to you guys before I kind of loosely plug myself. I appreciate all you guys do and everybody else in that same sphere. Continue to do what you do to put Kansas State on the map. And my stuff, if you like me, if you tolerated what I said, check out my YouTube channel. Check me out on Twitter. I think it's at Tillery_Joe. If I'm not mistaken, it's something in that realm. If you look up Joe Tillery, you'll probably find me on one of the two. I appreciate you guys. I hope to not be back here wearing the bag. But I tell you what, if I do, I will wear it with honor the same way our fearless leader, Bob Trollsby, wore this week. Thank you guys. It's been an honor to have, thank you for letting me join the show for this week's.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know Chef and you linked up and we had the Bosco's Boys show. So we've been looking forward to having you on for a while. It's glad we were able to get it to work out.
Oh yeah, man. Shout out. I gotta get back in the win column. So next time that happens, whether it's me and Chef figuring it out as Wi-Fi, if I have to call, hey, let me give this out before we get out of here.
I don't know. I think
Chef.
we weathered that Ohio storm or something that was going through earlier, but I'm running crystal clear now.
I talked about it in a video this week. Everybody needs to shave and go to the mustache mode. I'm going in real patchy right now, but if you go mustache mode, we're winning a national championship. I've
never shaved my beard. It's always been right here. This is my original beard from 2008.
Wow. How about that? I will say, because that's a lot of pressure added to the conversation, I would say, Bob, how recent is your beard? How you looking on the facial hair front?
I had a mustache 2 weeks ago, so this is coming since then.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. I mean, you guys all look great, first of all. But
thanks.
If it gets close, halftime, I might have to text you boys and we have to go. Might have to go stash mode. So,
yeah, it
Jeff,
might be stash mode for me. I can at least justify it because I'm cool with the mustache. But
yeah, you'll be back. I tell you what,
I
texted Kobe Savage and I told him, hey, dude, if we lose another game, you're going stash mode. And I'm waiting for that response. I haven't been answered at this point. So
that is this guy who was in my Psych 101 class.
I have never seen that guy in my life. Who is this idiot talking to me? So if we see it happen, whatever. Somebody else took credit for that. But I tell you what, stash mode gets us to the playoffs. But Chef, also a 12, whatever it is, 20. I can't do math. So we already established a 15-year beard.
At least this is like a 17-year beard. No, it's 15. 15.
I'll tell you what. Well, it looks great. So it's up to you. But I'll tell you what, if you want that win enough, that's the move. Go stash mode. But I appreciate you guys having me, man. It's been awesome to talk to you. I assume this won't be the last time. We'll all touch base here soon.
Absolutely. Chef, any last words before we get out of here?
Cocaine's a hell of a drug, baby.
For all of us here at Cocaine Willie, thanks for listening to the show on your feeds, on YouTube, whatever. Follow Joe, follow us. I'm at Bob Trollsby. Chef is at Chef Andre Napier. Fireball Matt is at Matt Marchesini. And Joe is at Tillery_Joe. Cocaine's a hell of a drug, baby. We are all Coke and no joke Wildcat Country.
Let's fucking ride. Swift Jet.